All right, guys, you can stop everything because this is officially the only podcast that you need to listen to today. Yesterday, I received an email from a woman all the way in New Zealand who decided to turn into Sherlock Holmes and fully dedicate herself to investigating Kamala Harris and all of these missing documents and all of these questions. And what she uncovered is potentially so shocking and so alarming that we can officially close the $1,000 bounty because she's earned it. I mean, she's going to receive the full 1K because this is now getting dark and twisted. And my suspicions about Kamala Harris potentially pretending that the help was her family maybe have been confirmed. I'm going to let you guys judge. Don't want to get way ahead of myself, but do not go away, and welcome back to Candace.
Hey guys, so this is Melanie off script. This isn't my main channel, but on my main channel, Melanie King, I posted a video where Candace Owens essentially dug deep, went into the birth records, the death records, and also marriage records, and pulled out so much information about Kamala Harris and her family, and essentially it's just a mess. The picture, I'm not going to go into it here. You can go watch it on my channel. I think she's going to do a little bit of a recap here, but you're going to want to watch it in depth. And again, I will post the original below, but it is so bizarre because the person that she is claiming as her grandmother in her book that was published in 2019, the woman that is in there could not be her grandmother because her grandmother died 4 years before she was even born. She has a picture of the woman standing next to her when she's about in her 20s. And then she has a picture of the same woman looking older, holding her as a baby. So it's just really bizarre. And things are not adding up. You can't find the records of where her grandparents got married. It is just seems like a lot of deception, but it is absolutely, there is no doubt that who Kamala Harris is claiming is her Black grandmother is not her grandmother and could not be her grandmother because, again, that woman died 4 years before Kamala Harris was born. So that's just to lay the foundation. Let's get into this earth-shattering news that Candace Owens is going to tell you in her investigation that she did, trying to dig deeper into Kamala Harris's family history in Jamaica.
Here, I mean, I'm just shaken. So look, if you're just jumping into this, you got to stop and you got to go back 2 episodes and play catch up, episode 70 and episode 71, because we're not going to do too much recapping here because I want to jump right into this. Basically, someone came for Janet Jackson and I answered the door. It was a discrepancy that was in Kamala's book, a woman that she said was her grandmother named Beryl, a picture of her and her grandmother Beryl. Here it is, visiting my paternal grandmother Beryl in Jamaica. And then I did just a brief search online and found out that Beryl allegedly died 4 years before Kamala was born. So that's a major red flag. Then I had a little bit of a gut instinct. The photos that were being presented of Kamala and her grandparents, great-grandmother and Beryl, I just felt that the women, or the woman, because I think they look remarkably alike, I just feel that maybe this woman was the help. And I'm not saying that because she's Black. I'm not racist against Black people. I am Black. I'm saying this because there's just a lack of emotion there. Like, I don't know if it's just my grandparents, but when they're with you, they're like super cuddly and cute. And this woman's just kind of very serious each time that she's being featured here. So anyways, what happened was we saw.
But outside of that, I will say there are some grandparents, especially depending on the culture, who are kind of like that, very stern, very stoic. Stoicism, will be kind of what it is, and they aren't very affectionate. So that I can see maybe that it wasn't going to be this affectionate photo, right? But more so than anything, it's the fact that this woman is not her grandmother. It's no way that she can be her grandmother. And when she talks about could it be to help, well, Kamala Harris comes from Irish slave owners, plantation owners in Jamaica, and it's recent history. And they actually owned over 1,000 slaves. They had a town named after them, streets named after them. Like, this was a wealthy family, even though she constantly preaches that she is from the middle class. Even just yesterday, she posted On her Instagram, the exact words, I'm from a middle class, I'm from a middle class background. I grew up in the middle class as a kid. It is like the tagline to her campaign. It's very bizarre that she constantly has to beat over our heads that I'm from the middle class and that's how I grew up. It's almost as though she's trying to convince people of this. Like it's like almost Manchurian Candidate, like repeating the same line, but it just is not shaking out to be true. So when she says the help, what she means is, talking about domestic slaves. And that is what Kamala Harris's family, that's where they come from. They had over 1,000 slaves. And of course, there will be domestic servants taking care of the children, or domestic slaves taking care of the children.
First Beryl's birth certificate. And then my instinct got a little bit stronger because her name was spelled differently in the birth certificate, right? So you see that it says Beryl spelled Beril, Magdalene. And we know for a fact, by the way, so people that are submitting other birth certificates, this is definitively the correct birth certificate because it says Iris Finnegan. And we know based on Kamala and Kamala's father, Donald J. Harris, that Iris Finnegan is the mother of Beryl. And then we see that her name changes, the spelling of her name changes, rather, by the time that we looked at her marriage certificate. Suddenly you can see that the marriage certificate has her name being spelled with a Y. Now that to me signaled that maybe she definitely is the help, and I'll tell you why. So my grandfather, before he passed away, maybe like 10 years before he passed away, I got kind of obsessed with trying to find all of these documents pertaining to him. If you couldn't read and write, you were gone in July of 1944, and I want to be clear, this woman could have potentially just been the help, maybe like on my scent. But I didn't want to be too convinced. Obviously, I lean into the conspiracy mindset because we've been lied to so many times. But like I said, we did find that marriage certificate between Beryl and Lawford Newland, which was in July of 1944. And I want to be clear, guys, we know for a fact this is the correct Beryl. So we're not confused here and looking for more documentation when it comes to the birth or the marriage, because the correct parents are listed. You can see Patrick Finnegan is listed. And so we know that Beryl's parents are Iris Finnegan and Patrick Finnegan. So that is the correct parent, the correct marriage certificate. But we had no idea who Lawford Newland was. We had no idea that Beryl had allegedly been married after she birthed Donald Harris. That would be Kamala Harris's father. Thought that was like quite strange. She would have been 6 years old in 1944. Donald Harris was born in 1938. So this means that she got married to this guy, Lawford Newland, and she had a 6-year-old. So I thought that was quite strange. I couldn't find anything on Lawford Newland, but somebody on the team was able to determine that he arrived on a ship to New Orleans. He arrived in New Orleans, from Jamaica in May of 1943. So we're showing you here the ship manifest, and Lawford Newland is on the ship, and he is listed as, he's listed as a Negro. He's Black. It says his marital status is single. That would be correct because this would have been a trip the year before he got married to Beryl. So quite strangely, he went to New Orleans, and then I guess he at some point had to have gone back just a year later to get married.
You know what I find strange here, and I don't think she mentions it on here. It says person in old country relationship, a wife. So essentially, this guy, if you're tracking, okay, so Kamala Harris's, father was supposed to be born in 1938, right? And he was born in 1938, but then there's no record of the father that they claim, actually marrying her. So, but that son was born. Then when that son was born, when he was 6 years old, then there is now a marriage record. So there's no marriage record between her grandmother and her grandfather, right? Even though they say that they were married. But then she has a child in 1938. When she gets married she gets married 6 years later, she has a 6-year-old son who is Kamala's father, right? Now the man that she actually marries is this Lawford Newland, right? So he goes to America. They find that he went to America the year before he gets married to Kamala Harris's grandmother, okay? But And then he returns that same year and then marries Kamala Harris's grandmother. But look here, he was supposed to be going to America single as an unmarried man. But look what it says: person in old country relationship, wife. I don't know if you can see that at the bottom. It says that he has a wife back home in Jamaica already. So how could he have a wife in Jamaica? He goes to the United States, then he comes back to goes back to Jamaica, then marries Kamala Harris's grandmother, who has a 6-year-old son already from a supposed first marriage. It's just Lawford Newland. People are trying to figure out, where did he come from? But I just saw that there. He already had a wife when he went back and married Beryl. Did he get a divorce really fast? And then none of these records are making sense.
We still have not been able to locate the relevant marriage certificate between Oscar Harris. Now that's, again, Kamala's dad. His father is Oscar Harris. We cannot find that marriage between Kamala's grandfather and Beryl. So that's like a huge question mark there, right? Like, where is that marriage certificate? If you guys find it, we're checking our emails. And we're obviously aware that there are a lot of different Beryls that are being born in Jamaica at different times. Some people are like, this could be the case of 2 Beryls, and they're sending us different birth certificates. Like I said, we know we have the correct birth certificate. We know we have the correct marriage certificate. We know for a fact that this Beryl did get married, and that Donald should have been 6 years old when she got married. So it begs the question, was this her second marriage? Did she have a child out of wedlock with Oscar Harris? Did she have Donald? And then did she get married? Because it lists her on her marriage certificate as a spinster, which means that she's not married, obviously. And then she gets married to Lawford Newland. And then at some point they would have had to divorce if she remarried and got married to Oscar. So she would have had to have gotten with him, had a child with him, married somebody else, divorced that somebody else, and then gotten back together with Oscar and gotten married. That's like a lot of movement. Again, we don't have any documentation, so we're not going to speculate. But Beryl in general, I'm not describing her as the dog that's not barking, okay? So some people were saying, well, I've seen on different websites that there was also a Beryl Harris that died in 1995, and maybe this could potentially be her. We've done the math on that. No, that woman would have been born in 1914. Like I said, we know for a fact Beryl was born. The birth certificates are probably the most relevant source, because you obviously wouldn't have a birth certificate written years later after the fact that your child was born, and it says that Beryl was born in 1917. Then this gets crazy. I get an email. Actually, I got 2 emails, but this one in particular made me sit up straight in bed. Like, I'm not kidding. I was like about to fall asleep, and I just decided to check the email box, and I sat up just like this and started texting everyone. And I woke my husband up. I was like, you have to read this email. This is completely crazy. It came all the way from New Zealand. Shout out to New Zealand. I'll be on tour there soon, you guys. Get out there, buy some tickets, because we're going to talk about this now. That's the only thing I'm going to speak about in New Zealand. But I'm going to just read this email to you because it's just incredible. Kia ora from New Zealand, Candace. My name is blank. And after your first podcast about the family of Kamala Harris yesterday, I went down the rabbit hole all day looking for photos of Beryl Finnegan Harris's brothers and sisters, as you asked. I was so intrigued and I wanted to take up your challenge. I could not find those photos, but I did come across a record that you might be interested in. I noticed on Kamala's birth certificate you showed that her father, Donald Harris, was 26 at her birth in 1964, giving him a presumable birth year of 1938. That is correct. He was born in 1938. I'm just saying that as an aside. I came across the attached record of a 1-year-old child who died in 1940 in St. Anne's Parish. This infant's name was Donald Harris. You will notice the baby's father's name that is given was Albert Harris, and there's no mother mentioned. However, you will be interested to notice that a person listed as present at the death of the child was none other than Beryl Harris. She has also signed the death record. What are the chances that Beryl had her own baby named Donald in 1938, and then was also in attendance of the passing of a baby named Donald Harris in 1940? Weird, right? And just to be clear, that we're going to show you that certificate because it would mean that there were 2 Donald Harris babies born that Beryl was around. One was hers and one, I don't know, guys. It's getting weird. I'm going to finish this email, then we're going to talk about it. I have looked for the infant's father, Albert Harris, and cannot find a lot about him. Albert's father name was Abraham Harris. I believe it is possible he was married to a Violet Fearon on the 6th of March, 1935. No record of her passing, so why was she not at her child's death, but Beryl Harris was? Was this baby Beryl's or Violet's? If Donald Harris passed 1 year old, who is the man claiming to be Kamala's father? Oh my gosh, chill. She wrote, make it make sense. I'll keep digging. Chills. I was like, what are you talking about? I've opened this email so fast. It was crazy. And let me just show you the attachment. Chills. I'm freaking out. I'm freaking out all over again. It's hitting me. It's a second wave here of what? So yes, you will see that listed here. This is a death certificate that is on the 29th of November, 1940, okay, in St. Anne Parish. That obviously is where her family is from. And yes, the child's name was Donald Harris. The child died before the child turned 2. So this would mean that it is plausible that this child was born in 1938, the exact same year that Donald J. Harris, Kamala's father, was born. Okay. Can you pull it back up? I'm not done reading through this. Okay. So you have also, it says the certified cause of death is fever and a cold. And it's letting you know, it says the duration of the illness, so that this baby was sick for 1 month, rest in peace. And it does mention that that baby is the son of Albert Harris. And just as this person speculates, it is signed by Beryl Harris. And it tells you, because you're supposed to include this, the signature of the person who was present at the death. And it says Beryl Harris, present at the death. And that is at Mount Moriah in St. Anne. Now, I want to be clear, there is no place to put the mother's name. So it's not like there's anything like strange here. I just think that if this is this Beryl's child and this Beryl Harris was married to this Albert Harris or together with this Albert Harris at some time, like that is the reason why it just says that present for the death. Like literally, who else would be present? If your child is dying less than 2 years old, okay, barely 2 years old, who would you allow to be there in your place? There's no mother on earth that wouldn't be next to their child. So it is very heavily suggested that Beryl Harris was there for the presence of her son, Donald Harris, dying. And that would put that approximate birth of that baby at 1938. Stop the press. Stop the press. Okay. So you can imagine me. Now you're me sitting up straight. Like, what is going on here? Like, actually, what do I know about Kamala's father? Like, this could be a coincidence. I'm sure. Yeah, I guess you could have like a lot of Beryls that are giving birth to Donalds in the year 1938 in St. Anne Parish. Of course, like you have to consider every possibility here, but also consider that this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. Okay. So then
So just to recap, because there's a lot of names and a lot of moving parts, right? So the man that is Kamala Harris's father, which is Donald J., which is, it makes me want to say Donald J. Trump, but his name is Donald Harris. Kamala's Father Harris, Kamala's father, okay, was born in 1938 to a woman named Beryl, right? And then had his father. They had their child in 1938. He was born in 1938. But that child died 2 years later in 1940. So if Kamala Harris's father supposedly died in 1940, the man who bears the name of the same name and says that he's Kamala Harris's father died in 1940 as a 2-year-old, who is the man that is claimed to be her father today? Who is this man? He couldn't possibly be her father based off of these records. Again, like there could be other things. Maybe in this small town in Jamaica, there's a bunch of people with the same name, the same exact name, the same exact ancestry, the same exact town, and having, and having this family lineage and be a part, but it makes no sense. So the man, essentially, this is showing that the man that is claiming to be Kamala Harris's father today is not Kamala Harris's father. At least if you look back at this ancestry, because the same man with that name, Donald J. Harris, who is her father today, that man died. That man died as a baby at 2 years old in 1940. So not only do we have a fake grandmother, we now have a fake father. This is groundbreaking. This is terrifying. This feels like Night of the Living Dead, like the Twilight Zone. Who are these people? Who is Kamala Harris? Where did she come from? Because none of this is adding up. So this is showing that she lied about who her grandmother is, that the pictures are fake in her book, and that the man that she claims is her father is not her father. At least the name, it's not making any sense. That man died. So who is this man claiming to be Donald J. Harris? What?
Received a second email. Okay. Very interesting here. Very interesting here. And I'm just going to read the email. I'm just going to read the email and take you through this. What happens when I go through my info box and I tell you guys to message with deets. This email says, "Hi, Candace. See the death certificate below indicating that Beryl Christie was a domestic servant in 1936 when her infant daughter died." So there's another, and this person has written Beryl Christie and lost her daughter, and I'm going to pull it up here at the bottom of this email. She talks about like the birth dates. I'll get to that later. Do you guys have a close-up of this? Yeah. Okay. So you can see here, it is Beryl Christie, and this would mean not only did Beryl Christie lose a child in 1940, but prior to that, Beryl Christie lost a daughter in 1936. Okay. Again, all we have here is Beryl Christie. We know that this is potentially the right Beryl. Again, there could be another Beryl Christie going around. I don't want to completely close the door on that, but it is interesting. And I'll tell you why this struck me as incredibly interesting, because when we spoke about the death certificate yesterday, right, and we spoke about this young death of a woman, she's particularly died, Beryl Christie, of fibroids related to a hysterectomy. So if there is a Beryl Christie that had back-to-back, had lost children in some regard, you could imagine that she might have been injured internally. This is a long time ago. You would imagine that the procedures, obviously, are not what they are today. And it is plausible that that woman died young of fibroids from a hysterectomy related to the fact that she had two troubling births, whatever it is, carrying children didn't work out for her. I just thought okay, but the big part about that second one is that we now know for a fact that there was a Beryl Christie that was, in fact, a domestic servant. Can you pull that back up again? Because I want to point that out so people can see this. The last one, the close-up of it, if we can. You can see that she is listed as a domestic servant. That girl is listed as the daughter of Beryl Christie. You can see that in that where it says rank, profession, or occupation, daughter of Beryl Christie, domestic servant. I don't know, guys.
Again, Beryl Christie is supposed, that was the maiden name of her grandmother, taking on the name Christie. I mean, her last name was Christie, or I believe she used that last name Christie, and then she was supposed to marry Kamala Harris's grandfather and take it on. But we've talked about that. But what's crazy is that this woman had a daughter who died 2 years before, who died in 1936. So this was 2 years before Kamala Harris's supposed grandfather was born, who then died in 1940. And that this woman is actually just a domestic servant. She's not actually part of Kamala Harris's family. She was a black woman who had a domestic servant is a slave. So she was a black woman, but she had nothing to do, it seems, with Kamala Harris's bloodline. That who they're claiming as her bloodline was actually just a servant on the plantation, on the farm to this wealthy family. But that is not where Kamala Harris comes from, because it does not add up. None of this adds up to Kamala Harris and to her father. And particularly, is that man her father? if so, his name, he has that same name. He was supposedly died when he was 2 years old. It's not just strange. This is terrifying.
Guys, I don't know, guys. Like I said, I'm trying to now, I'm putting in columns to sort through the various Beryl Christies that were born around this time. Like I said, you guys keep sending me stuff, but just to make sure you're filtering yourself, we know for a fact that Beryl Christie was born in 1917. We know for a fact that Beryl Christie got married in 1944 to Lawland Newford, or whatever his name is, Lawford Newland, pardon. And so we don't need a bunch of documents speculating that it could be a different birth, because her parents are listed, and Kamala and her father have confirmed that her parents are Iris and Patrick Finnegan. Okay. So we know those are the people that we are looking for. Oddly enough, though, because a lot of people have been pointing out the fact that in her birth certificate, even though we know that that's her mom, Iris, that's the mom's name, Iris Finnegan, it says Magdalene, and then suddenly it converts to Christy. Well, I just wanted to point out to you, because that was a question we were getting a lot, is why would she take on Christy? In Donald Harris's piece, he writes explicitly that Miss Iris, so that's Kamala's great-grandmother, that her husband was known as Mr. Christie. So I'll read you that paragraph. It says, Miss Iris, mother of 8 children, I can't find 8 children, by the way, was the sweetest and gentlest person one could meet, but underneath it was a tough farming woman who ran the cane farm at Thatch Walk, jointly owned with her husband, Mr. Christie. So the reason she may have put Christie, or started using Christie as a middle name, is because that would mean that her father was being called Mr. Christie. Again, we are getting that directly from Donald J. Harris, who I'm now very interested in. I'm now very interested in this particular Donald J. Harris. Obviously, very easy way to debunk this, and maybe there really was just another Beryl Christie that happened to have a child named Donald in the same year from the same parish, would be to just take a look at Kamala's father's birth certificate. And we can't find that. We quite literally cannot find that, and I find that to be very strange. People were writing to me saying, hey, it looks like this was purposefully removed, that his birth certificate was removed, and I would just like to find it, because it would just kind of let me be at ease and know that there's nothing further to look at other than this child, because
Yeah, because the man that's claiming to be her father today, there is no birth certificate for him, because again, the Donald J. Harris that was born in 1938, as her father was supposed to be born, died in 1940. So the man that's claiming to be Donald J. Harris today, Kamala Harris's father, he also has no birth certificate that anyone can find. Who are these people? Where are they from? What is going on?
It's just a very, very strange thing. Okay, I also wanted to just go over everything we do know about Donald J. Harris, because I was interested in him suddenly.
So I'm going to post the original below so you can finish listening to it. She also gets into how Kamala Harris's her actual birth certificate is an amended birth certificate. It is not the original birth certificate, and cannot find her original birth certificate. It has been amended, and that is the only one that is available. And it says I believe it said it could be amended 2 times. There's something mentioned about it, like this being the 2nd time. So all of this adding up, Kamala Harris's own birth certificate being amended, and when you do that, you can change names that are on there. You can do different things. Questions have been asked, and they need to be answered. Mainstream media is not going to pick this up unless enough noise is being made. But I don't care what side of the aisle you fall on. This is terrifying, because who is Kamala Harris? Why are all these lies? Why has she lied so much? Why did she lie even in her book? Who is this man that's saying that he's her father? Where are the Black people in her family? Because this woman at Beryl that she claims is her grandmother, that is now proven is not her grandmother, because that woman is dead. This is the only person on her father's side that she included a picture of. You always see her with her Indian side of her family. Anybody black has been like they married into the family recently, but you only see the Indian side, and she claims to be black. Now, the only black relative we can see is this grandmother, who is now we know is not. And then the man that's saying she's claiming is her father, well, he died at 2 years old, and now her birth certificate is amended, and we don't know what names are changed. And then she comes from all of this. Most of her family on her father's side are Irish. They're Irish slave owners. They were Irish plantation owners and farmers. Where are all these extended family members? There were 8 children. Each of these people had all these brothers and sisters on her father's side. Where are all these aunts? Where are the uncles? Where is that family? You only see the Indian family. Even if they're distant and whatever, they would still be around. They would speak up. They were like, oh, this is my family, that she's the vice president of the United States. This is bizarre. Who is Kamala Harris? And where are all her relatives on her father's side, black or white? We don't see any of them. So again, guys, I will post the original blow. I will also post my first video I did on my main channel, Melanie King. Make sure you are subscribed to this channel. This is Melanie Off Script. This is not my main channel, in case you're confused. Make sure you subscribe to this one. I will be doing videos over here, updating you on different things. And with that, I will see you on the next one. Bye.